Mr. Moderator, Gretchen Schuler, 126 Old Connecticut Path. I move you, sir, that the town vote to authorize the Select Board, with the approval of Town Council as to form, to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain a parcel of land located at 27 Sherman's Bridge Road, Wayland, Massachusetts, containing 8.34 acres, more or less, as shown on Wayland Assessor's Map 7, Parcel 23F, and as shown on a sketch map attached to the warrant for the annual town meeting 2022 at Appendix D. And B, appropriate the sum of $1.5 million to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for the acquisition of said parcel, of which the sum of $475,000 shall be from the Community Preservation Fund Open Space Fund, and the sum of $1,025,000 shall be from the uncommitted fund in the Community Preservation Fund. And C, further to authorize the Select Board to grant a permanent preservation restriction on said property pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 12, and General Law, Chapter 184, Sections 31 to 33.
A couple of notes. Number one, I believe in that Section C, you said grant a permanent, that should be a conservation.
Conservation restriction?
Yeah, I think you used another word.
I'm sorry.
And, okay, I just want to make sure it's conservation restriction.
Yes.
Do you wish to, well, I'm going to make a comment. No, you discuss this motion, and I will then, I have a comment I need to make on Article 15.
Do we need a second or not?
No, it's from a board, committee, CPA.
Okay, thank you. This article will provide funds to acquire 27 Sherman's Bridge Road, an 8.34 acre parcel for the development of open space and preservation of natural resources and wildlife habitat. The parcel is adjacent to Trout Brook Conservation Area and will provide connections to other conservation parcels, increase passive recreation opportunities, and enhancement of wildlife corridors. It meets the criteria listed in the Community Preservation Plan for properties that are worthy of preservation and purchase by the town. This opportunity is available to the town now. Once the property is developed to its potential of about 4 housing lots, it will no longer be an asset, an environmental or open space asset to the town, and may lead to degradation of surrounding natural landscapes. 27 Sherman Bridge Road is a keystone parcel to connect and link 210 acres of already conserved land stretching from Moore to York Roads in Wayland. It would physically connect these parcels, connect trails, and provide visitor parking lacking today. I will note that there is a trail along the western boundary of this property, not on the property, but on the western boundary. The property was identified in the most recent 2017 Open Space and Recreation Plan, as well as earlier open space plans, as land that the town believes was and is important to protect due to its proximity to Trout Brook and the Campbell drinking water wells, for its sensitive and environmental and critical environmental habitats and wildlife corridors, its connectivity, as I said before, to other conservation lands, and several identified vernal pools. For these reasons, the Conservation Commission brought this project to the Community Preservation Committee, which now requests that the town add the parcel to Wayland's open space. A conservation restriction is required of all property purchased using open space funds of the Community Preservation Fund. Thus, the article provides this requirement to be accomplished. This project is eligible for Community Preservation Fund's Open Space Fund, can be used for the acquisition of open space. The project would be funded by monies that have already been collected and received by the town and will not impact the town's tax rate. There are sufficient funds available in the Community Preservation Fund, Open Space Fund, and the Uncommitted Fund. Some have raised the question about whether this purchase is in the 5-year capital plan. Of course not. We'd have to put all the desirable properties on that are on the open space plan listed in the capital plan. That would be unmanageable. Private property is only available when an owner decides to sell, And the fortunate situation here is that the property owner has been willing, and is willing to take this property off the market to give the town the opportunity to purchase it at a price that is below the appraised value. As you well know, the town is prohibited from spending more than the appraised value. In advocating for the purchase of this property, neighbors have methodically ticked off all the criteria in the community preservation plan showing how this property meets each criterion. Another neighbor has been working on a management plan that they will give to the Conservation Commission. Is the Conservation Commission's responsibility once we do purchase the land. I hope you'll join me in acquiring this property, and I do have to say that the Community Preservation Committee was so committed to this. We had talked about many other permutations, and everybody 9-0 said, no, we're going to do the whole thing. Thank you.
I've intentionally withheld my normal question. Does your motion substantially as is in the warrant?
Yes, it is. There was
In substance?
Yes, only the Massachusetts general laws for the permanent conservation restriction were referred to in the motion.
Thank you. I ask that because many of you who are very familiar with transactions in Wayland, the moderator's rules, will note that the description in the warrant was not sufficient under the moderator's rules to allow any motions or discussion of this. It did not represent me have a meets and bounds nor a reference to a recordable plan. This came to my attention. I exercise my authority. I believe the moderator has the authority and the responsibility to revise, waive application of the rules in the interests of the town of Wayland. I chose to do so. I was given the meets and bounds descriptions, which were put on the website. I wrote a memorandum, which many of you have read on the website. I will not reread it, but I do want to break out 4 points, which I will read quickly. I remain indifferent as the outcome of either of this article or the current Launcher Way article number 22. My sole concern is they be properly before the meeting. I have chosen within my authority to waive the rule to allow these articles to be discussed by the Assembly at the meeting. Generally, as you know, I make no final rulings before I'm sitting here in the chair. I chose to make that ruling because to me, to have stuck right to the moderator's rules, we could not have had this discussion. No discussion whatsoever. 3, I want to make it very clear. This action does not create nor may be used as a precedent. Don't even try it. Any and all individuals who bring real estate matters before the town need to comply with the rule. I have chosen to waive the rule in this case only. The rule still exists. It has not been modified in any way. If a similar situation arises while I am moderator, I would likely deny any motions and any discussion. A discussion of changing the rule is relevant. A discussion of waiving that rule because of some precedent, no. The fact that publicly available property descriptions could be promptly provided as they were does not mitigate this issue. In fact, it exacerbates the failure. These descriptions could have and should have been included in the warrant. Something failed in the process of developing the articles. Whoever promotes or prepares real estate-related articles in the future needs to be aware of this and comply with the rule, which you can see on page 108 of the moderator's rules. So there is no precedent here. Don't even think about it. Having said that, I noticed the gentleman at the con mic, Mr. Lowry.
Mr. Moderator, Michael Lowry, Lakeshore Drive, speaking for myself. I have some questions and some hesitancy about this article. This land is across the street from Alpine Fields recreational facilities, and there have been plans and considerations about using a portion of the land in the future for parking. I would hope that if the town acquires this land, any parking that was created could also be used for recreational purposes. That is a question. Second of all, in the description of this in the warrant, the Campbell Road drinking water wells were mentioned. The Campbell Water drinking water well is 1,370 feet at its closest to this land. It is not in the Zone 1, and furthermore, this land is not even in the capture zone of the wells, so I don't believe that the town should consider the Campbell Road drinking wells as a consideration. As to connectivity, it would have been useful to have a map showing the connectivity that the previous speaker has described. I believe there is a thin stripe of conservation land that does connect the properties that have been described. Finally, this would be removing 4 to 5 homes from the tax rolls that would perhaps cost the town an ongoing $50,000 a year. There is an alternate use of this money. We owe a great deal of money that we have borrowed for the conservation restriction at Hamlin Farms. This money could be used to pay down that debt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. The gentleman at the pro microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sean Fair, Chair of the Conservation Commission, but speaking on behalf of myself. I think the only other time I've ever spoken personally is for the Mainstone vote. I kind of have a very similar feeling on this one. This is about as silver of a platter as conservation lands come. The family has generously taken it off the market, giving us a fantastic value. Neighbors have been super involved. I'm also a board member of SVT, again, speaking on my behalf. SVT's had this property on its sites, and Mike, Mr. Lowry, I'm not sure what little sliver of land you might be thinking of, but this land is a keystone land. This is why the CPC funds we set aside and pay all this money for the years. This property will connect not only conservation land in Wayland, but also SVT land as well. This is about, again, a silver of a platter as conservation lands get. So if you like the CPC fund and really agree to its use, my personal opinion, this is about as good as it gets. Thanks.
I believe, do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you ask a question? Then Ms. Shula perhaps can answer your question and the question, Mr. Please ask your question.
Hi, Alexia Obar, 18 Dean Road. I had a question about, we do actually have a plan with other projects that we could use the CPC money. I was just curious how many projects we have already that we were interested in before this one popped up. And number two, wasn't this looked at for development, but it didn't work out? It didn't just get taken off to be nice.
Thank you. Ms. Shula, do you have a question posed by Mr. Lowry? And this lady posed some questions. Can you respond to all of them?
I hope. Gretchen Schuler, 126 Old Connecticut Path. Mr. Moderator, I already forget Mr. Lowry's first question. He started with it. I'm sorry. The one thing he said that was to use the money to pay down the debt for Mainstone Farm, we have asked that question, and it doesn't make any difference, we are told by the finance director. The plan, you're going to ask the question again? You're going to remind me.
Why don't we, Mr. Lowry, why don't you clarify your question, and then Ms. Shula can perhaps answer it. Well, publicly, at the microphone, Mr. Lowry.
I'm sorry. Mr. Lowry asked, or the previous speaker, two previous speakers asked if the parking could be shared. That is completely unknown at this point. We don't know how much parking will be there, and it's out of the hands of the Community Preservation Committee. The Conservation Commission would be making those determinations. The last speaker asked about a plan and couldn't we use this money for other plans or for other properties. To purchase property, we have to know about it, and somebody brings the opportunity to the Community Preservation Committee, which is what happened here. The Conservation Commission found out about it. I don't know what the findings were for the development that was proposed, but the contract ended, and the property owner said that they would very much like to see it preserved in the, really it would honor their parents for sure. to use the money to develop other plans. The Conservation Commission applies for CPA money off and on to develop plans, and they have maybe 2 or 3 plans that have been developed, and they have some money remaining to develop other plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said? Mr. Glovsky. No, the lady at the pro microphone was here first, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michaela Kanarick at 183 Oxbow Road. I am a neighbor to this property, so for anyone who's not familiar with it, I just want to make some points that might help you make your decision. This is a beautiful piece of land. It's important for conservation. I have seen all kinds of more rare animals, and aside from that, the family who owned the property, the parents believe very strongly in conservation. They passed away sadly. The children had 2 options. They could figure out a way to conserve this space or sell it to developers. It's a hilly area, so they will have to level some hills, clear a large number of trees to put in some what will most likely be McMansions, unaffordable housing at the degradation of our natural spaces. Everyone who lives on that street is outraged. Everybody has been talking and working very hard and closely figuring out solutions. So I applaud the households who are part of that effort, and I implore you all to take very seriously that there are things more important than just tax revenue from a couple large, new, expensive homes and what that would do for the town. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I will presume the folks you're standing out, you're looking to speak at the pro microphone? I see you standing over there. I just want to make sure where you are. Do you have another speaker at the pro microphone? Go right ahead. Oh, you have a question? Why don't you come to the center?
I have a question.
What? She was there first. She was in line first.
Hi there, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Ann Harris.
Speak to the end of the microphone.
Ann Harris, 38 Rich Valley Road. My question is just that we know the cost that this is proposed to come out of the Community Preservation Act as 1.5, I believe. What other monies are in that fund, and if we spent this, how much would be left?
Do you wish to answer the question?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Gretchen Schuler, 126 Old Connecticut Path. I believe there's a chart at the back of the warrant that shows that if we pass everything at town meeting, we will have about $500,000 remaining. That's always our goal, to keep about $500,000 in it, and then it gets replenished throughout the year. And next year we will have probably about $1.5 million will go into the preservation fund, and we can spend that on future projects.
Could you identify that plan? I've got the warrant in front of me.
138.
Page 138, they tell me?
It's the report of the preservation.
Almost
Your
the very
reports?
exact warrant. Yes, page 138.
Yeah, so if you go to the
Appendix
bottom,
K.
uncommitted funds, that's what would be remaining if we adopted everything that we have on the agenda for town meeting.
That's the CPA.
Yes, for
Thank you.
for
Thank you
community
very much.
preservation.
Thank you. Mr. Glovsky, a question.
Steve Glovsky, Shaw Drive. I'd just like to be assured that the $1.5 million figure was arrived at from an independent appraisal. Thank you.
Ms. Schuler, do you wish to speak? If you don't wish to respond, you don't have to.
We had to have an appraisal done. It was more than the $1.5 million that the property owner was willing to sell the parcel to the town.
Thank you. I recognize the lady at the pro microphone.
Okay. Hello, Susan Garfield, 24 Sherman Bridge Road. I wanted to address the question from the previous about Alpine Field. So the property in discussion is not directly adjacent to Alpine Field. Our property sits between what is across the street, this gorgeous and very special tract of 8 acres Then there's Sherman Bridge Road, which passes between, which is pretty difficult to traverse. And then you have Alpine Road, which is where Alpine Field is. There is adequate parking on Alpine Road for Alpine Field. In addition, I just wanted to clarify, the previous speakers have talked about this land. I just wanted to give you a brief mental picture of it. It's dissimilar than almost any topography in Wayland. It has the highest peaks and lowest valleys and the most beautiful, special place. We have so many lovely open tracts of land, but this one's different geologically in some of the ways the natural space has been preserved and the way the animals interact. One of the previous speakers mentioned the question about development. We did have a proposal for development on that property in which over 1,000 trees would have had to be cut down to create the property as such for development. I think you can appreciate for the town's climate objectives, the town's open space objectives, the town's plans for creating a beautiful opportunity for generations to come to wander around and experience nature as part of their education in this town. This is a golden opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen.
Larry Kiernan, Concord Road. Is there a, included in the cost, is there a allocation for demolishing the existing house, or is that staying?
Mr. Moderator, Gretchen Schuler, 126 Old Connecticut Path. That is not in the cost. There have been conversations with neighbors who have committed X number of dollars to be able to pay for that if, in fact, that is the wish of the Conservation Commission, but the decision would be made by the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Anything further to be said? I see the gentleman. See the gentleman at the pro microphone.
Steve Myro, Red Barn Road. I'd like to add to what Gretchen Schuler just mentioned, and there's been a fundraising effort going on with the Sudbury Valley trustees, and to provide funds to help demolish the house and for improvements to the property. It's only been going a few weeks, but as of May 12th, we've had pledges for more than $35,000 towards that effort. And the owners have said that they would be willing to do some cost sharing to help with the demolition of the house. Thank you.
Is there anything further to be said under the motion under Article 15 by Ms. Schuler? I see a gentleman at the con microphone.
Hi, Larry Kiernan, Concord Road. I'd just like to comment that I don't believe there's any additional access to conservation land being provided here. There is a trail today. I've walked it often. The developer that did look at the land looked to give us 3+ acres, which abutted the conservation land and saved a beautiful kettle pond overall. I don't believe 1,000 trees were going to be removed. I think it may have been a couple hundred. I'd be surprised if it was that, but that's all.
I see Mr. Lowry approaching the microphone.
Mr. Moderator, Mike Lowry, 120 Lakeshore Drive. I just want to mention that according to the National Heritage and Endangered Species Mapping System, there are no rare or endangered species on or near this parcel.
Thank you. Anything further to be said? Seeing none, I see people coming to the microphone.
Hello, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Michaela Kanarick at 183 Oxbow Road again. I'm not an expert, but to my understanding, when you level lands in the forest and build homes, there's a number of chemicals, runoff from roofs, de-icing agents, general pollution that homes can create. Coming down the steeper sides of what was described as the landscape into these gorgeous kettles, what lives in the kettles and the vernal pools, frogs, salamanders, when we let these things go little by little, there's only so much time before these populations cannot rebound, and what we lose is enormous. The web of life crashes. Last town meeting, we voted on a climate action article where the town should consider all of these things when moving forward with projects. So I again implore you to take all things into account, and we have the privilege of living in a place where we can save these parcels of land. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a lady.
Susan Reed, 58 Gleason Lane. I move the question.
We have a motion to questions, a motion to terminate debate. It is non-debatable in itself. It is a 2/3 vote. So we have an amendment on the question on the floor to terminate debate. Let me ask this question. Sir, are you the one last speaker? Will there be any other speakers besides this gentleman? You haven't spoken before. Would you like to speak? He has spoken before. Why don't you speak briefly, and then we'll go right to the vote. If there's anyone else who'd like to speak, I'll move the motion to terminate debate. If there's just this one gentleman, we'll hear him, and then we'll vote on the full amendment, on the full motion. Go ahead.
Steve Myro, Red Barn Road. I'd like to comment that last year, an environmental consulting firm came out and found 3 potential vernal pools in the area, 1 right on the property, 2 right over the property border. They came out this spring to validate that, and my understanding is that 2 of the 3 could be certified as vernal pools with the state.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to move now to the full vote on the matter. All those, and this is a vote on the motion about Article number 15. All those. What? One person only, please, Ms. Schuler. Terminate. No, we skip the motion to terminate debate because there's only one last person. So we're now on the motion, on the motion in chief. I've sometimes done that before. If there's only one person, we'll hear them, and then we go to the motion. So let's move to the motion. All those in favor of the motion under Article 15, please indicate by your support by supporting one on your handset. All those opposed, 2 on your handset. We are now the motion. The window is open, and I thank the lady who brought the motion to terminate debate. But I saw only one person, so we'll hear that person. But you did speed that person along a bit. The window is now closed.
I was going to start throwing them at you.
155 having voted in the affirmative, 23 in the negative. The motion passes. Is there anything further to be said? Please, please, please. We allowed applause during the ceremonial parts of the warrant. But when you applaud, you're kind of slapping in the face the opposition. That's why we don't applaud. Ceremonially, early in the meeting, that was fine. But really, please, it's undignified. I'm going to declare that motion disposed of. I note Ms. Carlson.